This is the Three Skeevers podcast.
So do we want to introduce him? What do you go by, Art or at Chaos? What introduction?
Art's good. Art's good. Yeah.
Art. Okay.
Yeah.
I've heard Icy call you Artie a couple times. So
Yeah, it all works. I answer to Chaos a lot of things along the way, but yeah.
Yeah, it's mostly just because when I say art, like it just hangs in my mouth and it's so hard to let go of it. So if I just say Artie, then it just rolls off no problem. So that I'm just more used to it because I got a guy on my bowling team. His name is Artie, so it just kind of, oh look, now we got another Artie here in Discord. So yeah,
Works for me. I mean, in New Zealand they add O to the end of the name.
Ardo.
I think. Ardo, John O, Mike O, Fred O. If you haven't
ICO.
got an O, you're not included as one of the boys.
Oh Jesus.
Doggo.
I
So
learned
we're here-
something about New Zealand today. That's cool.
yeah, we're here today with Art from Art of War, and this is the PvP guild that we've been playing with and running around with, and it's been a lot of fun. How are you doing, Art?
I'm doing brilliantly. Thanks, Grimm. Thanks, Icy, for inviting me too. This is awesome.
Yeah, man. Of course. Glad to have you.
Yeah. So tell us about the moment when you decided that you were going to create this PvP guild called Art of War. What was the thought process behind that? And then, like, what's your mission statement? Like, sell us on Art of War. Why should we join?
Well, you already are joined, so I don't have to sell it to you. Oddly, I don't know what happened, but for some reason in this game, I realized that from the way I look at the game, one of the almost in-game elements is trying to teach people. There's a lot of people, very good players, crushing content out there. They couldn't teach anybody to save themselves. And their common response, which I absolutely loathe, is just get good, which is about the least useful thing you can ever say to anybody. So, years back now, seems a long time, I started a guild that taught people how to do dungeons right from the start. Level 10, I'll drag you into Fungal Grotto 1, and by the end of it, they're out of their skins. They're dungeoneers, they're off, wanting to crush all the content out there. Got sick of dungeons, so went into trials. Met people like P Zombie and Cameron and others, and that was awesome. And that guild fired. We got teaching down. We understood a lot more about it. Burned out on trials, done my time, and realized that the most dangerous game out there, if you're going to attack anything, it's people. By far, it's the fiercest predator you will find, and beats the heck out of bots. So comparing it to trials, PvP is the ultimate dungeon or the ultimate trial. It just rocks. And the variables, the challenges, the opportunities, I still can't get my head around it all. And out of that, Art of War started to happen. It was a pretty convoluted first few weeks or months, as Cameron will have noticed. But with her support and then others coming on board, it started to happen. And then a pivotal moment occurred in Imperial City. Running around with a small team, getting our ass handed to us, we met another small team that was a disaster for us. They absolutely slaughtered us over and over again. But they did it in such a good way, and with so much respect, that I felt I had to reach out and talk to these people. Turns out it was Grimm, Icy, and some friends. And we realized it's an opportunity. You want to follow that one, Grimm?
I like that. That was the first thing that I noticed about that too. Normally in PvP, it's not all PvPers are toxic, but there's like this, Nephis just did this video not too long ago where he talked about the toxic casuals. And we have the toxic casuals that go into PvP and they just fill up your DMs with all this negative and trash talk and everything else. And I liked how, like, you guys immediately were like, that was awesome. You guys are like, that was awesome. How did you do that? Or like, and you immediately were trying to glean whatever information, whatever you could learn. And, that's what got me, was how you don't see that often. It's either no communication or trash talk, right? It's not positive reinforcement or like, hey, keep on slaying, bro, that was cool or whatever. It's always negative or sarcasm. So that was the thing that stuck out to me. And then, I came on board and Icy came on board. And then we started talking about like transfer of knowledge and coaching and what your ultimate goals are to do for the guild, and um, group outings are fun. Working all the way down to the nuts and bolts of each individual player and getting each individual player good with their sustain or good with their durability, good with a singular class to start, and then advancing their know-how into other classes. And so we just started working on that with you guys, and it's been a lot of fun. I've trailed along with you guys. You got multiple PvP guild outings going a day for you're a multi-class or multi-faction PvP guild, which is really cool to see, and you guys are doing it really well. Like, are you at cap right now? Is the guild full?
No, like most guilds, it's difficult to get. You can get up to 500 easily, but you can find you have 200 to 300 of those that actually are inactive in the guild. They might be in game, but they're not running whatever content you're running. Why they joined the guild in the first place is one of the great mysteries that I've never solved and never will.
Yeah.
So no, we're not at cap. I'd love to have 500 people that were wanting to run PvP every day with us. We couldn't handle it, but I'd love to have it.
So I
Yeah.
might have an answer to that mystery question for you. I know for me personally, whenever I do join a huge guild like that, it's mostly for way shrine teleportation. Okay, so I don't have to spend gold to port somewhere, because with a guild of 500 people, there's a good chance that somebody's going to be in the zone that you want to port to. So it's very convenient for that aspect, as well as when you have a big guild like that, there's a lot of resources that were put into really establishing the guild hall so that we have all of the Mundus stones, all the crafting station, things like that. So it doesn't surprise me that we have 200-300 inactive members, with the guild events per se, because again, most people, they just want to use those resources, and I don't think there's anything wrong with that. But yeah, I think it just comes down to like what the expectations are, and like what you're trying to achieve with the guild in particular.
Yeah.
If that helps.
Yeah, I can see that. So with the training process right now, could you kind of run us through what you're envisioning for Art of War and how you're approaching training with people? Like, if someone were to join and say, "Hey, I want to get better at PvP," what's that process look like? What's your sales pitch on that, I guess?
Pretty much, we say go and talk to Grimm, which is where we our first surprise reaction is sort of, what you actually do one-on-one training here. Yeah, yep, we do. Well, how much is it going to cost me? They're thinking real world dollars here. It's just like, no, it's free. It's just part of what we do. And you can almost hear that stunned silence. And this is happening via text, Discord DMs. But every single person that's come through the training with Grimm or Icy it's changed their game. I don't think it matters. I think you've very rarely struck a person that couldn't benefit from time. Maybe one so far. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
There's also recommending, if they're not ready for that, or don't want to quite at that point, at level 10, if you can get into Cyrodiil, you can run with us. There's nothing stopping you. You might have a one-legged horse or a half-legged one. It's all good. You can run with us. The stuff to do, you will learn by doing. And you'll learn by doing with people that will res you. If we can get to you and res you, if not, we're all dying and we're blood porting to somewhere else. And every single run, no matter where we're going, has got training and teaching in it. There's always information that can be imparted, and it's usually situational. You're riding past something, you can mention something that happens here, something that can be done. Why do I leave the ram outside the door of the keep when we're repping? Because they have to burn it before they put one in if they're attacking. Little details, but you pop it in at that moment. One of the brilliant side effects, I thought I was going to have to sell people on Trifaction going by the reaction of the people I'd been running with up to that point, words like traitor, spy, evil, all the words, this whole factionalization is interesting, but has its limits. And it turns out that just because people love what we do and running with us so much, we have so much fun, that they're just naturally wanting to make characters of each faction so they can run, so they can join in all the guild runs. And I'm realizing now we're at the point of we run every faction every day for a couple of hours, that people in the guild are finding they're hitting their limits. 2 runs a day is enough for a lot of them. We're offering more than many can actually absorb. But of course, we're covering time slots as well to give more people more opportunities.
Yeah.
We've got quite a strong thing building now, especially led by Wolf, who's really got our battlegrounds humming, getting people enthusiastic and passionate and running, meeting people. Again, I want to go back to this, you mentioned it before, this, how people are talked to in Cyrodiil, because I think that was the pivotal moment of me wanting you and Icy to join us here, was that the opposite of the toxicity, that fact that you could talk to someone with respect and not get astonishment in return. Because half the time people, I've got an add-on that lets me tab and just talk to whisper anyone out there. And if I'm being beaten in a good fight, I whisper the person and say, well done. And mostly the reaction you get, if they do react and they're not marked as offline to avoid all the toxics, is, oh, well, thanks. No, it was quite a surprise. And but so many of those people have now joined the guild.
Yeah, that was one of the things that I liked about this undertaking was, number one, Icy and I believe in multi-faction as well. We came to that conclusion and under different circumstances. It was, we're running around on EP and then we're, say, up in the districts or in the sewers and we're like, dude, there's like 40 EP running around. I wish we had a DC or AD that we could switch to and kill these guys. Like that's where the fights are at, right? There's 40 people running around. So that's how we came to that conclusion. Like we just needed to be multi-faction to have the fun fights. And so there that was. But I had a communication with a person that was running Imperial City up in the districts early when I first started working with you guys. And the guy messaged me and he said, you're just training Zergs. Like, you don't realize it now, but that's all you're doing. And I'm like, no, it's so much more than that. Like, currently, these guys are moving as a group, but we're working on them on an individual basis as well. And what's going to happen is they're going to, certain individuals are really going to like putting themselves at a disadvantage and moving around either solo in a small group and trying to take on the whale, right? To take on the big groups, because that's exciting. Like, what if only 3 of us could wipe this group, 12-man group or 20 people here? That would be epic, And so when we work with people on an individual basis, and the better and more comfortable they get, the more durable and the ability to fight back, turn fights and stuff like that, they start kind of wondering and wanting to, see what they're capable of. And so that's just going to happen. It's a byproduct of people getting good, right? And getting better at their class and getting better at what they're trying to do. Now, there'll always be people, and there's nothing wrong with it, that want to move and travel in groups, right? There's strength in numbers and they feel that. And there's nothing wrong with that either. And so you guys are attacking it on every level. Anywhere that PvP is available, Cyrodiil, Battlegrounds, Imperial City, on all factions, like you have these events available for people. And then we're doing like group pre-White Strake Mayhem, we were doing like introduction to dueling, and then we were talking about how to move as a group. Like if you go to Cyrodiil, it's very easy to get mowed over by 20 people, So if you have 10 people together, you're going to get killed by those 20 unless you know how to work as a group. And so that requires training, how your front line works, how your second line works, where the healer's at, how does range work, where's the Nightblades at. And so we start going through all that. And I always view it as like everyone's a blank slate and we're just going to throw tons and tons of information at them and see what sticks, and then just circle back around to it. But I don't know, those group sessions, I feel like there's been a lot of benefit there. And the times we did a group battlegrounds, we were helping guildies. This was another example of something that you guys do really well, but there were guildies that were having a rough time in battlegrounds, right? And so what we did was you guys like organized guild battleground outings, and with the intent of getting that achievement for people. And so what happened was we had so many guildies queuing trying to help other guildies that our teams kept running into each other, and that was a lot of fun. And then another thing too is the war games down in the sewers, where we're staging like 3v3 or 5v5 team outings. And so at one point I saw that the guild roster had a bunch of people, and there's like 15 people standing on the side, 5 people in fighting, another, the other faction, 5 people that is also guildies, and 15 people standing off to the side. And then it's like someone dies, next person in, or someone dies, let's get the res off and get them back in the fight. And while you guys were doing that, it was drawing attention on the map, and other people were coming in, other groups came in. So it's very interesting, doing the war games, doing the battlegrounds, attacking Cyrodiil, attacking Imperial City, and just doing PvP on all those fronts. And doing it without an ego. That's what you guys are doing. And we're not just training Zergers, right? Like, we're training people to be good at an individual level and help others. So I don't know, I have to high five you. I think you've been doing an awesome job. So, and it's a full-time job. Literally what you're doing is like recruiting and then kicking people that aren't doing anything. They're not participating, they don't have any guild participation, so why are they there? Just that process is a full-time job. So high five to you.
Thanks, Grim. I mean, it's worth it. It all comes down to passion, and I notice that in the people that join. If you have the passion for what you do, you've got the energy for doing it. You want to do it. You want to get up and do it. And yep, it is pretty much full time. But when you look at the results in the people, and I think as a teacher, what keeps me going is it's that moment when someone breaks through, when they discover the passion in themselves, and you feel them start to leap out of their skins. That's the payback right there. You've created an addict to the game, or the aspect of the game. And I love doing that in trials and dungeons, and I'm finding the same thing here. People in the guild that joined early on, in context for anyone listening, this guild's 3.5 months old. It's a very, very new guild. We've hit 500 with cold back. We've hit 500 with cold back. We're still doing that. Those war games, though, Grimm, I see. What a genius idea of yours. I'm so glad you brought that to the guild. And we're picking that back up next week on. Now the event's over and we've recovered a little.
Yeah, it'll be fun. You guys need to do the manhunt too. I can jump on Mandalorian and you guys can come and try and find me. So and I'll run around with like 10K, 50K Telvar, something like that. So
Yeah, the war games are definitely one of my favorite things, and I know when me and Grim came up with the idea, almost, I don't want to say almost 2 years ago, maybe like a year and a half ago, and oh man, it was I think it was a genius idea just because it would artificially give us the fights that we wanted at essentially any time that we wanted, because we can, as long as we had the resources of a lot of people that can show up on time and then get together and we get our fights going, then we can have the enjoyment that we want. And I think we've done about maybe 3 or 4 days of war games all in a row right before the White Strikes Mayhem event started, and I know the first day was a little bit rough, but then after that, it started to get into a nice solid rhythm where I was like, man, I remember I think I messaged you after Grimm. I was like, man, this is actually a lot of fun. This is pretty cool. And I know like my role, I was just more like a chaperone, kind of like helping give guidance and things like that, and watching the kids go to work and everything. And it felt kind of cool just watching everybody learn and figure things out, and almost like in a sandbox area where they are able to uh, go to their limits in this sandbox again, and with no fear of death in a way, because I would just go in, res them up real quick, and then hey, pick them back up and push them back in there, and like keep on going. So it was yeah, it's been a lot of fun and a great experience, I'll say.
Yeah. Yeah, pick them up, dust them off, push them back in.
Yeah, isn't that what parents do, right?
Yeah, I mean, the parents of kids that are really gritty, and they're gonna figure it out.
Oh yeah,
So,
absolutely.
yeah, something I noticed too. Hagrid and I, he's a new guildmate for Art of War. We were just working together. He's gonna be dangerous. Watch out for him. But I had talked about this on Nephas's podcast because this is a little known or little understood, or it's an oversight by a lot of people. But let's take PvE world. And in PvE world, you have people like Skinny Cheeks. Skinny Cheeks just released a video not too long ago where he's doing like 130k, 140k parse. 130, 140k parse, right? But if you ask some people that are like above average DPS, they might be in the 50 range to 70 range, right? Not even half of what Skinny Cheeks is doing, okay? And this is somebody that's above average, like above par, right? That's somebody that trials groups are trying to get. Like, let's grab that guy that can do 70k, he's solid. But if you went to Craglorn right now and you were to pug a group, you might see some 15 to 30k DPS people, right? And the thing is, if you ask those people, how do you think this guy that's doing 70k is doing it? They might not know, but it's realistic to them. They understand that 70k is possible, and they just can't explain to you how it happens, right? Without video proof, if you said, hey, do you believe that there's people doing 130 to 140k? Heck no. They'd say there's no way that somebody's doing 130, 140k. 100k more than me? Get out of here. They're cheating. And they can't comprehend that, right? But here's video proof of somebody with the rotation, the build, the whatever, Skinny Cheeks just killing it. And that disparity, that's a huge disparity. The 30k DPS to the 130k DPS, it's a 100k DPS disparity on the PvE side. That disparity happens on the PvP side. And people's ability to survive when they're being attacked, or to maintain their buffs and then maintain damage, or turn a fight, right? Like, we always talk about turning a fight, and that is one punch leads to two, two lead to three. Next thing you know, you're looking up and you're like, what happened? Momentum, and PvP and ESO has momentum as well. Like, if they jump on you, they get the jump on you and line up their whole burst on you. Now all of a sudden you're on your back foot, and you are trying to heal through it and trying to survive it, and it ends up being either a short or long painful death, right? Because you never get off your back bar and actually turn the fight. And that's one of the most underrated things you can ever learn, is how to turn the fight. And that's why proper dueling scenarios, that training allows you to hone that ability to turn fights. But they can't comprehend immediately, this guy is unkillable, right? And if you looked across the board, it's the Skinny Cheeks of PvP, right? It's the guy that does 130k parsing. It's that guy, but he's in a PvP environment, right? But immediately they have to go to, he's cheating, or they just can't simply comprehend how he's doing it. And it's just a lot of hours of training, rotation, and training everything. Same way Skinny Cheeks, he didn't get that rotation overnight. he had to work at that, to hit 130k DPS. That's a master at what he does, and there's people like that in the PvP side of it too. So, but it's a huge overlooked aspect. That disparity exists on both sides, and also making the jump from the PvE side to the PvP side doesn't always equate, right? Just because you are the 70k DPS guy over here in PvE doesn't mean that you're going to be middle of the road guy or above average guy in the PvP world. It's two different animals. So, anyways, I wanted to throw that out there. What have you guys noticed about training right now? What are things that you're happy about? What are things that you want to continue to work on?
I'll continue to work on everything. I mean, I've noticed the uptick in people's ability, their awareness. I'll start from myself because it's always a good place to look at things from. Have your own perspective. And having had a training session with Grimm and a new build, and that's all I play now, that Stamplar. And I've noticed my fight situational awareness has changed. So I can explain that better now when we're running. People watching, don't chase that shiny into the tower. Just dot them up. And most of them are dying just being dotted up by range. And we're not dying from them, rather than everyone goes into the tower and gets wiped out because that's their environment. So, but training-wise, yeah, just the runs, the people's ability is just steadily and constantly stepping up. And I wanted to touch a bit more on those small teams. Part of my vision, I've got a big vision for the game, but just before we get to the big vision part of it, we were talking the other day about how it's quite common now for armies to run in 4 and 5 person fire teams, which when you're trying to control a lot of people, it's easier to control small teams of people rather than a whole mass of individuals and get them to do what you want. So using BGs, using the war games, and having people that have been trained, they've got their gear and their rotations sorted, even if they're still not masters of it, they're underway. Having them learn to work in small groups and be self-sufficient means that when we roll out there with teams of 12 or more, that team of 12 can break into 3 groups of 4 at a moment's notice. Predefined groups. Separate out. Now imagine the havoc that they're going to wreak against an average Zerg who has to run as one mob. It has no other consciousness other than as a mob. It can't break into organized teams. As soon as it starts to break, it's lost, which means our teams that can separate out and then come back in and do pincer movements, they're going to effectively wipe those teams constantly unless they've got some of those top players that you were talking about, Grimm.
Yeah, and this isn't theory crafting. You've actually already seen this working. So,
we know those players too that you mentioned. We see them, we know them in Cyril, we know their strengths. And yes, you're right, it's working. And this is what now, in a way, the event, I don't know whether it was the right timing. The event's happened, it's its thing. Puts a lot of pressure on a guild too. You get so busy. So, but once the event the dust has settled, that's an area we're going to be working at a lot, which will combine with the war games and the battlegrounds. We'll get fire teams running. We'll get people bringing preset builds and roles to the runs, signing up for them if they want to be part of that fire team. You've got to sign up. You're going to be bringing your tank or your healer, like you said. And that'll give us teams that then can undertake different missions and tasks. That's going to start changing the things out there. Now, I'm going to follow that by saying what I want to see happen in Cyrodiil and PvP is that we start lifting the standard and creating basically an arms race. I'm not anti-Zergs. I just think if we create teams that are so strong they keep breaking the Zergs, other people are going to have to create teams that strong to counter. So naturally we'll start seeing more of those smaller teams running because it's the way it evolves always. I would like to see as part of that, I'll take a step back here. One day when I was looking at the map in Cyrodiil, I realized that in front of me was one of the great real-time strategy games that it seems almost no one's playing. And I thought about it for a while and realized if you could get enough people working together with enough understanding, you could easily control any of these maps. Because you've got this whole game that everyone's playing as fractured units. Even the guilds that are out there are just communicating in guild. They're not talking to the zoners, they're just talking about them as pugs or screaming at them or whatever. It's fractured people everywhere. And if you can get cohesive, you can do what was shown by Wolves of Fenris in the Black Reach map. One solid guild working together cohesively can effectively rule one campaign. You need an equivalent guild to knock them off that perch or provide effective counterbalance. So as part of what I was looking at, I was thinking, well, if you've got a game like this, where it's an RTS, it doesn't matter which side you're playing, whether you're red, blue, green, yellow, purple, I don't care what color you are. You're just an opponent. You're not an enemy. You're just an opponent on the board. And a good opponent is a thing to cherish. You know, ideally, the great opponents become great friends because you can learn so much from them and have so much fun competing against them, then comparing notes afterwards. And now we have a guild where we can do that inside the guild. You know, we play our war games, we all chat together afterwards. You know, we look at how it went, how we were doing. Why did I get killed? Well, someone could tell me because they killed me. They saw exactly the opportunity, the weakness in my defense, and made me pay the price. I can learn so much from a friend teaching me in return. So I guess that shows a bit of the bigger picture here. There's even a grand strategy in what I'm looking at. If this guild reaches the full potential that I'd like to see it reach, we will have no choice, but we will have to spread across all the campaigns. Otherwise, we'll be too strong in any just one.
Yeah, I think the true test is going to be the next White Strikes Mayhem in like June, July. So from now until then, we have the next 5-6 months to prep and train everybody to their best ability, and then we'll see the fruits of that training 5-6 months from now.
Right. That's kind of like the Olympics, right? The
Yeah.
PvP Olympics.
Yep, exactly.
Good point to aim for. Okay, I didn't realize it was so soon. I'm glad they're doing 2 a year. That gives us an excellent goal, and we can set our training up based on that.
Yeah. What have you been running into, I see, predominantly with your training with the healers and stuff? Like, what are the most common pain points and things like corrections that you're seeing have to be made?
Oof. So I guess from my experience, because I used to be the Padawan and now I'm the Jedi Master. I'm just kidding. I don't want to go that far. I'm just okay. I'm just okay.
No, you're really darn good. Trust me.
So from the coaching perspective, I do find I do help a lot of people try to get their builds together, and I try to meld around with what they have and what they're looking for, because it's very easy for me to just say, okay, just throw on Pariah, throw on this and that, and then call it a day, and just watch them go off and get their feet wet and stuff like that. But just like with an exercise program, you don't want to just copy paste from one thing to the other. It is very it's very similar to that with the style and stuff, but in terms of sets, there's 522 sets in the game, and with these sets that offer damage mitigation and sustain and things like that, I try to tailor it to fit the individual's needs. So, and everyone is different, especially with what they have access to, or what they simply want to run. And so that's one aspect which I find that to be very simple and easy for me to do. But I think the hard part is just, I guess, doing the BG with them, and in terms of like kind of like how you do it, Grim, where you watch them do the BG, and I'll usually do the first one, and I'm like, I'm not going to backseat drive. I just want to see what you're doing, and then I'll just write down my own notes mentally, and then after the BG's over, say, hey, I saw you do this, this, and that, whatever, and then we'll go into the next BG, and then I'll backseat drive, and then they'll start to understand more. And I was working with one of the guys in the guild. I call him LG. I think it's Lung Games. And we did exactly that. And I was shocked to see the improvement when I was backseat driving, just giving him pointers. Okay, do this. Look out for this guy. This guy needs help. Use your ulti now. Before the fight starts, or whatever the situation is. And kind of like when you do it, Grim, you see their scores increase dramatically when you provide that level of guidance live in that moment. And when I was talking with LG afterward, he's like, "Wow, like I can't believe I did that well." And it was, even just for me watching, it was very impressive to see him make that stark improvement over such a short amount of time. And I guess even with it's because everybody's so different, and there's a lot of like little minute details that people struggle with. One is positioning, one is knowing when to block, another is using your ultimate, another is map awareness, all these types of things, which, as I understand, you're not going to learn it, by tomorrow, right? These are just things that you just have to keep going and going, and then eventually it's going to click, and then it'll all make sense where you start, you know, uh, start to master or start to act more consciously competent in what you're doing, and start to actually start to block more, start to watch the map, watch your teammates' health, start to position more, anticipate attacks coming from the enemy and things like that. So does that kind of answer your question, Grim, a little bit?
Yeah, that's something I notice too when I'm watching Battlegrounds. I'll notice, this guy's buffing up on the right and he's coming at you, or this guy on the right just hit you with a Dawnbreaker. Make sure you cleanse that. Obviously, maybe we got lucky and we blocked the Dawnbreaker itself, but we still want to cleanse the dot pressure from the Dawnbreaker, or maybe we don't because of Plague Break. Is anyone running Plague Break? Is cleanse an option right now? And so all these things that we're trying to look at. The thing I noticed about working with individuals is, and I've known this to be true a long time, is not only do you have to teach them their rotation and how to play their class and kind of tailor it to what they want to be when they grow up, like, what they envision their play style being or what they want to do with it. But then you also have to teach them about every other class and how that class is trying to kill them, and how their rotation works and how they're going to line up burst and all of that. And then we talk about this all the time. Sometimes you just can't kill certain people outright. You need to make it a resource fight, and you'll stand check them and kill them that way. And so how does that work? But
And I guess the healing perspective is like, hey, sometimes you can't heal people just because there's just so much burst coming in that there's nothing you can do, especially when the individual either gets popped or they just lack the skill level to, on an individual basis, to mitigate that damage, right? Because it's very clear to me when I recognize, or it's very clear to me when I see a player and I can recognize based on the damage incoming to that person what their skill level is. And it's like, okay, I know not to prioritize this guy. I need to stick with this guy because he's going to have the biggest chance to win the BG for us.
yeah, I always tell people to, that are really green on their battlegrounds, pick a champion. Look around at your team that's with you. Like if you're a ranged person, pick a frontliner. Don't ever pick a sorcerer. Don't ever pick a Nightblade as your champion, right? Because the Nightblades are just going to stealth and be gone, and then you're standing there, oh hi, and it's going to be a tough day. And the sorcerers will do the same with streak, right? The second they start feeling pressure, they've streaked halfway across the map, and then you're, oh hi, standing there by yourself again. But pick somebody that has a sword and board, like a DK, Stamcrow, whatever it is, that's going to be up in the fight, and make that person your front line. If you're a ranged fighter, find a frontliner for you in battlegrounds that make your life infinitely better. And you and I run into this all the time, but we can run too much speed. Like if I'm on a sorcerer or I'm on something that's fast, what's something else that's fast that I play at? And you're like, well, I might as well not try and chase Grimm around because he's
Well, we'll say it's the Sork, because once you streak, it's like, see you, bro.
right. Have fun. Good luck.
Yeah, especially if I'm not on a Sork as well to keep up with it.
Yeah. So you could be playing with too much speed, and then in that moment, your healer is ineffective to you unless you're, standing there with him. So he might as well attach himself to somebody else and just run around and keep them alive. So, but and when we attack the battlegrounds, we never go into the battlegrounds with the intent to win the battleground, even though right now they're all deathmatch. So it's a bonus to win those. But on an individual, like the next time I work with Hagrid, what we're going to do is give him a checklist of things that we want to see him pull off in a battleground. I want to see him win a 1v1, like unassisted 1v1. Unassisted meaning he doesn't have any additional heals coming in from outside source, and the enemy doesn't have assisted heals. It's a just straight up 1v1. So I want to see him win a 1v1. Then I want to see him win a 1v2. Or I want to see him win a 1v1 that rolls into another 1v1. So it's a little bit of a sustain juggle, right?
Do you
And
make
then-
them put pale odor on?
No.
Because that would ensure that they don't get heals from anyone else.
Oh, you know what? That's very smart.
I like it.
Dang. Big
I
brain.
like that a lot. Yeah, big brain. Yep.
Yeah, Big Brain is right, because I get pissed off when I'm in a
You're trying to throw
BG
heals.
and I see some guy go to 50%. I use my life giver and I don't see a single green tick on that guy, and I just get furious. Oh my goodness! Especially when they're not in a vampire mist, when they're not in the vampire mist form. Oh my god! I immediately like, bro, I cannot heal you if you have pale odor on. Okay, and then so, it's like 50% chance that they're actually gonna swap it out, whatever. But if they just keep it on, end of the BG, the guy's like 4 and 9. I'm like, all right, well, that's what you get, I guess.
Yeah, that's a good thing though. That's a good call on that. So I think that winning a 1v1 outright, that's pretty good. And then if you can win a couple 1v1s against different classes, that's good. Another thing we look for is how they counter build. So like if you're running into a lot of sorcerers, obviously using cleanse right now is super dangerous in battlegrounds because of plague break. You can effectively use a cleanse away from party members, right? And the whole block hit cleanse, eat the burst damage, but get bad stuff off of you, whatever. You could do that by yourself without killing your team, but half of a sorcerer's offense is negated if you remove Haunting Curse and you remove Endless Fury. Now they can just, occasionally frag you and light attack or heavy attack, crushing shock or pulse, impulse, whatever. But half their offense is gone by staying on your cleanses. And so figuring out how to counter build that, or say you're on a warden and Crystal Shield. Is it Crystal Shield, Crystal Slab? It's
The shield that gives you major heroism.
it's a huge shield, right?
Slab.
Oh yeah,
Slab.
shimmering shield.
Shimmering shield, huge shield, right? So you're running into sorcerers or you're running into bow gankers and you just drop that ability on your bar and now they're a non-factor for the most part in battlegrounds. And so I look for the ability for really good PvPers on an individual level to be able to counter build for what they're running into on a regular basis in battlegrounds. And so you should have a couple flex spots for that. But that's how I've been approaching the battlegrounds, and it's been or individual training. We use battlegrounds to go get the fights we want immediately, and occasionally I'll jump in with duels. I always save the duels for the end, for like last resort, because it's not a good gauge unless you want to be the best dueler in the game, which doesn't translate over to being the best PvPer, because you could be a great duelist, but just you'll get mowed down just as easy as everyone else by a Zerg, or get outplayed. Dueling is very different than 1vxing an open world. It just is. And so teaching everybody that. And if you want to be the greatest duelist, then you're going to spend a lot of time outside Stormhaven or whatever, fighting everybody. But I don't know. We've run into a lot of cool stuff.
I just had a thought that the 1vx, when those things happen, it kind of also shows what the skill level is of the Zerg as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So if that Zerg is pretty top tier, then you're not gonna 1vx. And even if you are 1vxing, you're gonna get away unscathed because they're smart enough to be like, okay, this guy, he's just a knucklehead running around and up and down the stairs. Let's go find some other fish to fry, right?
Yeah.
So
Or
then
would
the
be
one
like, don't chase that guy. Don't chase that guy.
Yeah, so like it's funny because the 1vx's they will they'll wipe the Zerg, but then as the Zerg knowledge or skill level increases, there's a middle ground where the 1vxer always gets killed, and then it goes back up to a point where they don't get killed because the Zerg doesn't mess with them anymore because it's a waste of their time.
Right. Right.
So
Unless the Zerg gets tired of him, right?
oh yeah, because it's yeah.
Well, I mean, all of that's happening right now in our runs, where we'll see a tower humper go in, leave them, and we'll just carry on. We've got objectives. We're off to get the next resource, They're just trying to stop us doing what we're trying to do. Don't let them pull you off the siege. Don't chase the shinies. There's no need. Bring them to us. We're stronger here. All of this stuff's happening. And I noticed today on the porch, Bomber came in, hit the group. Bomber died. One of us died. That's not how a bomber needs to be encouraged. They need more than one for giving their life. Otherwise, it's a wasted mission. I was just thinking as you're talking about it today, we were just running smaller groups, 6, 7. But those 6 and 7 groups are as strong as our original teams of 12 we were running. We're rolling on with 6 of us taking a keep. And I noticed today on EP, we were pretty much the first a lot of the time at each of the fights. We'd go to the keep, rock in, drop a ram, light it up. The rest of EP would follow in. AD, of course, would turn up, maybe some DC. But we just kept, pushing. We worked out where we needed to be next, and we got there and just started. There was no real fear of it. And if we wiped a few times, there was some really good small teams that you're talking about, 4 or 5 players. They were solid as. They just nuked us. I'm still not quite sure what their combos were, but they had them down. Again, all good learning. We pick up, reset across the map, off we go again. And I must admit, it's quite a pleasure running with some of the teams we have. They're just, good people doing good things and getting better every day. So you're right, Icy, Grimm. This next Mayhem White Strikes is going to be a hugely interesting point of measuring how we're doing.
Yeah, it's all about that consistency from here on out, right? The people that keep showing up. I'm not going to say every day because, again, we're all human beings. We all have lives and things like that. But the people that can show up several times per week over the next 5-6 months until the next event, they're going to be the ones that have the most performance improvement. And I'm looking forward to seeing it.
I hate to say, though, if it is June, July, that's only about 4 months out now.
Oh, yeah. It's usually like mid-July, I think, or end of June, somewhere around there.
I'm all for longer, more time to prepare.
Yeah, because I know this one, it's supposed to start in January, but they did delay it for various reasons and things like that. So, yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if this one was, still 4 or 5 months away. Yeah.
Yeah. Something else, too, I think we have to call attention to this. This is like not a known thing, right? We'll call attention to it. There's a difference between being a ball group and like just a group and a small group, right? And then solo players, obviously.
And a Zerg.
And a Zerg. People don't know the difference between a ball group, a Zerg, a group, a small group, and whatever, but your ball groups are built specifically to buff each other, right? And their strength is together. And almost everybody, you can anticipate this, next patch is running resto staff on their back bar or heals on their back bar that benefit the group, right? So you see every single person in a ball group throwing up heals from their back bar, building ultimate, and then going to their front bar and ult dumping groups, right? Ball groups are super dangerous. I think there's a misconception. A lot of people, like this guy that I was talking to in Imperial City, he kept trying to take bites at the group. I was running with Art of War, and I was just kind of running alongside them, peeling for them. Like anytime a shark come by and tried to take a bite, then I would, whap the bop the shark on the head and say no, no. And this was one of those guys, and he just kept coming back. He kept coming back, and we get into this long conversation about it, and he's like, "You're just training Zergers," and it's like, no, we're not. We're doing so much more than that. But I think it kind of says his understanding or limited understanding. You have to be Zerging, or you have to be a ball group if you have 12 people or more, and that's not really the case. You can have, like, when I listen to Art, he's like, look, you can play whatever play style you want. Like, there's a lot of things that work in this game. Play whatever you enjoy. That's his immediate go-to, is play what you enjoy. So he doesn't require you to play with specific type gear. He doesn't require you to play with, you have to run resto staff, or you have to run this ability. He's like, play what you enjoy. And that is a undervalued thing, or underappreciated thing. Like, here's a guild leader that runs a huge PvP guild, and he's like, no, just play whatever you enjoy and come along for some fun, right? Like, that is the perfect atmosphere to be in and learn PvP, in my opinion. So high five on that, Art.
Well, thanks for spotting it, Grim, because in my view, the best learning environment is one where you're enjoying yourself. You're receptive to learning. And, if I try to fit you into clothes that you don't like wearing, think how you're going to feel. I mean, I know how I feel. So play what you love. And then we'll work with that. You put 12 people in the group, but on the Zerg thing, someone said to me more than 4's a Zerg. So it's just a perception. And I don't care. I'll run 30, 40 people out there happily. But the eventual goal is all of those 30 or 40 people can break down into small groups and run independently. They're that good. Most of them can also run solo, but those that don't want to, they run in the size group that makes them comfortable and feel like they're contributing to their best. And if you get it right, there's a concept which I'm sure you've all felt. Like, you and I see, if you're running with Papa and say one other person you run with a lot, you have those moments where the group just fires. It plays out of its skin, and the sum total of the group is greater than the sum of its parts. And that is, I felt it most in the trials back in the days, when a trial group just came together and absolutely conquered it. And the feeling afterwards, you were just so high from it for so long, and you never forgot those runs where everybody just gelled. Getting that running, if you can get those small fire teams running at that level, that's when they nuke the bigger teams, and not the bigger PvE Zergs, but the guilds that are actually okay. Have good players that do a lot of PvP. You can still get in and wreck them because, we've seen those players out there. They're very high quality, but they just play together so well too.
Yeah, we have a buddy we like running with. His name's Rotten Treats, and Rotten, this is his quote. Rotten can kill 20 people with one bullet and no gun. So that's him in ESO. Like, Rotten's very, very dangerous and really quick to fight. Like, ICO always like, oh, there goes Rotten running off to kill people. So, everybody has those bloodthirsty Neanderthals with them. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
I think we all have one inside us that we let out on moments.
yeah. We were in No CP Cyrodiil a couple days ago, and we were at a tower. We just flipped, or at a resource. We just flipped the resource, and there's an 80 Zerg about, right? And it was a lot. I don't even, how many people was that, Icy? 30, 40? I don't even know.
Was it just last night?
Yeah.
Oh,
no.
Lord, it was. If it was the one where they were pushing up all the way onto, I think it's King's Crest, like right in our base.
Yeah. Where was the one that I was like, hey, follow me, we're going to circle around the tower here, and then we wiped that group? How many was in that?
Oof. Honestly, there were just so many moments. I remember a lot of our Imperial Sewer moments, but the Cyrodiil ones from this past week, there were so many. It was all kind of a blur. All I remember is saying, get Zerg.
Yeah.
It was really intense, but keep going with your story. Yeah.
anyways, a lot of them rolled up superior numbers and hyper aggressive group too, like very quick. And we all know where the state of the game is right now. If you take a CC, you can't always break free of that CC by the time, with those type of numbers, you take a one crowd control, you get stunned, you're probably dead. And so anyways, we're on the flag at a resource and that whole Zerg comes running up and there's like maybe two or three random people from our faction on the flag too, and they're like running into the Zerg, and I'm like, oh boy, the dinner time, right? They're gonna get chewed on. And so I just said, hey, let's run around the tower here. Let's sweep around and come in right on the back end of that group. And so we did, and we wiped the whole group. And I think it was you, me, Papa, and Shadow.
Oh, okay, yeah, Shadow. Yeah, that was I think on like Tuesday, Wednesday.
Yeah. And we didn't have the numbers, and maybe we didn't have the skill on them either. They might have been equally skilled. It was just the tactics, like we got into their ranks, we broke their ranks, and then we were able to wipe them. And then in the chaos or in the moment of, them fleeing in every which direction, we were just hunting them down. And 4 of us, 30 or 40 of them. So, yeah, lots of fun. It's those moments like that I really want the fire groups that you're talking about. I want them to experience that because there is nothing better than that. And you're just like, we're not meant to win that. We're not supposed to win that. And we did. That's amazing. So,
Yep. And I want the same for the groups. And you can just imagine what will happen as you get larger numbers of groups like that building in the guild. And the potential then to have fun playing out in Cyrodiil, the sewers, IC. Yeah, I mean, I can't even. I've got a pretty good imagination, but I just don't think I can even begin to see the whole picture here.
yeah, it's going to be a blast. This was a long time ago, almost 2 years ago, maybe a year and a half. Here, we're going to be those old guys telling stories like this, Icy.
I never thought it'd get to this point.
We're going to be these old guys telling the stories, but we're we're hunting probably 12 no, I would say 20 man group. This
Yeah,
was
because back then they allowed the groups to still be 24.
24. So this is probably easily a 24-man group, and we have video of it, so we can go back and do a head count. I'm saying it's 24-man group, and we have 4 in our group with us. Icy and I, this isn't our first rodeo. We've hunted groups before and wiped them, but these other 2, this is like we're taking them out for a stroll in the park, and it's their first experience in this. Anyways, we hunt this group down, we wipe this full group, and one of the guys is like, is this real life? did that just happen? This is crazy. And I want that to happen for other people so badly, it's so awesome.
Yeah, I know
Yeah,
when we come across those groups, like you got to be careful because a lot of times they'll just mow you down, and groups are getting smarter nowadays too. Over the last 2 years, so yeah, it's you got to be very adaptable for sure.
Yeah, introduction to proc sets like Plague Break and Dark Convergence have added a new obstacle to fighting groups for sure.
Mm-hmm.
we just look now at the way we stack on the flag. You'll notice if it's us, there'll be 3 to 4 of us around the flag or facing the flag out a decent distance from it. You can't drop a Dark Convergence and do anything when it's like that.
Yeah.
We notice though when the others come in, we move away from the flag when the zone comes in because they stack. So.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. Well, what else? Do you have any topics that you want to cover or things you want to talk about?
I think we've covered. I mean, the guild is, for such a new guild, is just doing an extraordinary job of I just thought the people, the way they're wanting to get into this whole idea of learning in a pure trifaction, so you get to experience that board from every single side. You understand how each faction is thinking about things, how it looks to take a keep, how to defend a keep from each angle. I think the next few months as we lead into the next event are going to be incredibly exciting as we bring the fire team concept in. A lot of people who are ready to step up are going to be able to jump into teams like that and start really unleashing. And we'll be running more war games, which I want to talk to the two of you about in more detail shortly, so we can get that up and running shortly. And yeah, I don't know. I think we've covered so much.
How can everybody contact you? So PCNA, and how do they reach out to you to join Art of War?
Well, you can either contact me at Art of Chaos. Don't know where you want to write that down so people can see how to spell it. You can basically, we can pop a link somewhere. I think there's a link on one of your YouTubes for the guild anyway, the Discord.
Yep, I can put
Welcome.
the guild Discord in their descriptions for you.
Anyone can join the Discord. We have an open section there. You can ask to join the guild from there, or you can just be part of what's available in the open section and contacting people, chatting there. There are all sorts of different things happen there. The main guild is where, of course, the main stuff happens. So if you really want to get involved and get trained up, I recommend joining. But there's definitely room for people that are active and interested in PvPing and learning. And I mean, you don't have to ever have walked into Cyrodiil, a Battleground, Jeweled, or Imperial City before. You're still welcome. There are people that will work with you, train you. We have Nova who will be starting up her 101s, which is a pure introduction to this is how to travel around. This is how to pick up quests. We grab people from the very beginning and we'll work with them, as far as we can. If we can find something to work with someone, we will. And ideally, the ones that we can't teach anything, we'll turn around and help teach others.
What do you got, Icy? Do you got anything?
I'm just excited for more war games because I really have a lot of fun being a part of those. And I think we have the Ascending Tide DLC that's coming down I think next week on the 14th.
14th, yeah.
Yeah, so that'll be something to look forward to. But yeah, aside from that, no, that's it.
Wolf had mentioned that a lot of the people that are joining the guild are joining just because of that positive reinforcement attitude overall, right? Like reaching out. I know Wolf does that too. Like if somebody does really well in a battleground on one of the other teams, he reaches out to him and said, hey, that was awesome. Keep on slaying, guy.
Here's my card.
Yeah. And he's like, we're actually recruiting for a PvP guild, so maybe you'd like to join. So yeah, I think that positive, that's huge, and it's needed in ESO. Like that atmosphere is needed, like a PvP. Right now, PvP is very kind of looked at as the black sheep, right? Or the not
Toxic.
toxic as a whole, and it's really not. Like there is a full PvP environment out there that exists. That the problem is there's not enough people doing what Art and what Wolf do, contacting people and giving props and saying that was awesome. Those people aren't vocal, right? The people that are appreciative, the people that are acknowledging, skill and stuff like that. For the most part in ESO PvP, those people are quiet, and therefore the only people that have a voice are the toxic ones, right? The ones that talk trash and the ones that make a fool of themselves. And so that's just, sadly, that's where it's at. So the only way we change that is by being positive reinforcement and being positive and honestly reaching out and doing what they're doing. So I'm all for it. I think we can change the perception of PvP, and someday you guys might have to start a Art of War 2 guild.
Hope not. I don't
Well,
think I can run 2 full-time jobs.
yeah. Well, hopefully at that point you have a team of people that you trust, infinitely, and the Art of War 1 is your main, and Art of War 2 is the the one where you bring the new recruits in and they go through their steps and then they graduate up to, you know.
You know what? I'm not sure that the campaigns we have right now, when we're off event, are big enough to handle 1,000 people running.
Oh, heck
at the
no.
level we'd
Yeah,
like
you
to.
guys would run over it. Could you imagine 500? Just
Well,
500 active?
even that, that wouldn't 500 active across the campaigns we have would still have a massive impact.
Yeah,
We'd actually have to play all the sides to keep it balanced,
yeah.
which would be fascinating.
Even more than the impact that you make on the maps, I'm the impact that I'm all for you creating 5 of these guilds. If this impact, you know what I mean? Like the
I
impact
do.
that you're
I hear
bringing.
you. Yeah.
Yeah, like
Yeah.
that positive reinforcement and just changing the toxicity and ESO. I would be all for that. Like,
Well,
I don't know. That's
put
what I want
bluntly,
to.
you change a map. You change a map for a few hours, maybe for a day, but you change a heart or a mind. That's a lifetime.
That right there. And that's what we need to do with ESO. We need to change that across multiple hearts, right?
Well, that's where meeting you and Icy shifted this guild. It took a turn, and it went from being envisioned as a university to being a dojo. Working on the concept as we're talking the whole person, not just the fighter, not just the skill on the field, but I want to bring in guild and have our top recognized fighters as having the same honor code in a way as the Bushido code from the samurai. So that if you want to have that rank in guild, you have to show yourself not just being a good fighter, but by also you're an honorable person on the field in the way you treat everybody else.
Yeah. Have some integrity. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And no, so in guild, we don't teabag. If I spot anyone doing it, they're obviously new to the guild, just let them know, hey, we don't do that here. Every opponent is treated with respect. We'd like them to be in the guild. Every single person out there, well, there may be a few out there I'd rather didn't join, but apart from probably about 6 people that I know out there, the rest, they'd be awesome to have them join because we'll learn from them. So,
Yeah.
treat with respect.
That'll all sort itself out too, like with that with bad apples, coming and going. So I wouldn't worry about that. Full-time job for sure though. So we have a handful of people in the crowd right now. Wolf's there, Hagrid, Coffee, KD, Zombie's there, Alexandra's there, Kurosawa, yeah, is in the crowd. If you guys have any questions real quickly, we can answer those. You just hit the little hand symbol down in the audience and you should be able to, or you could message me directly and we can answer a question, but we'll only give you like maybe 5-10 seconds here, and if not, we'll close out the episode. So I don't have anything else. Did you, Icy?
No, that is pretty much it. But as a reminder, while we're waiting for people to ask some questions, we do have an audio version of the podcast that you can find on Anchor. We always leave a link in the description below. And of course, if you want to join us on Discord in either the Grimsforge Gaming server or the Art of War server, we will always put links in the description below. And it looks like we don't have any questions. So I think it's safe to close out this episode, and we'll see you guys next week or in a few weeks, whenever we decide to do another one. See ya.
Bye.
See you later. Bye-bye.
You're going to say bye-bye, Argonians.
Bye bye, Rogonian.